Most of us don't have the security clearance necessary to access the drama the world goes through on a day-to-day basis. This makes it really easy to just chill at home in our underwear, watching Netflix and eating potato chips. Meanwhile, people working for the government are making split-second decisions that could affect all our lives. Here are points in history that almost caused World War III. To wake or not to wake. Adults of a certain age might remember watching the movie War Games as a kid. The film assumed that a computer program would be able to start a nuclear war. In 1983, this was a scary idea, but little did anyone watching it know they had come close to being vaporized a whole 4 years before because of a very similar circumstance. In November 9, 1979, when the National Security Advisor to President Carter was woken up with the information that there were 2,200 missiles on their way. Fortunately, it was only a computer glitch that had almost ended the world. Cuba isn't all cigars and rum. Some historians called it the most dangerous moment in history. The president's brother Robert and the Soviet ambassador were locked in taut negotiations to defuse the situation. The problem started when the US learned the USSR was putting nukes on Cuba. JFK could have ordered an airstrike, but instead he used the Navy to blockade the island. If the Soviets had decided to breach that line of ships, World War III would have started. Fortunately, they decided to turn around, but it was a very close thing. NATO War Game almost kills everyone. War games are supposed to be just that, soldiers pretending they're fighting and killing people. Okay, so they aren't the most fun games, but they aren't real. However, when the Soviets mistook a NATO war game for the real thing in 1983, it took us closer to World War III than even the Cuban Missile Crisis, according to one commentator. Everyone involved knew it was all pretend, but the Soviets didn't. They were so sure this war game was cover for an actual attack that they started gearing up their military. Fortunately, the Soviets didn't do anything. When Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher found out how close we all came, she worked to get everyone to be a little more open, and things started to thaw out. North Korea attacked South Korea and people died. 2010. South Korea had been conducting military drills near a disputed border. While the South did fire shells, they claimed they were pointing west, away from their neighbors. North Korea disagreed and accused the South of starting the whole thing. Whatever happened, soon the North was bombarding the South with missiles. Fortunately, most of them hit a military base rather than downtown Seoul or something. Unfortunately, people still got killed. 2 soldiers died and 20 people were wounded, 3 of them civilians. Whatever the reasoning, the bombing brought South Korea to crisis status, and it thought of retaliating. But cooler heads prevailed and a renewed war between the peninsula was put off for at least a few years.